Well, a federal judge recently issued a ruling that allows a lawsuit against Shell Oil in New Haven to proceed. A group called the Conservation Law Foundation is suing Shell, charging the company has failed to prepare its fossil fuel storage terminals in New Haven to withstand the impacts of climate change and is thereby putting New Haven at risk.
Joining us now to talk about the lawsuit and the environmental concerns at its core is Chris Torres, a visiting assistant professor of government and environmental studies at Connecticut College. Chris, thanks so much for joining us. So what are the environmental dangers being cited in this lawsuit?
There are several, but more broadly speaking, the dangers being cited is that these facilities are known to have harmful chemicals to both humans and wildlife, to carcinogenic chemicals, toxic chemicals identified by the federal government. The danger posed is if and when there are storm surges or flooding due to tropical storms or hurricanes, that the toxic chemicals on these facilities will make their way up the river, up the banks, into areas populated by people, other habitats and ecosystems.
Chris, I believe I'm correct in saying this is sort of a foundational principle of law that you can't sue for damages before those damages have been inflicted. What are the previous damages this lawsuit cites as having already been caused by the fossil fuel terminals?
Yes, good question. The Conservation Law Foundation, in their complaint, is saying that there's already an ongoing issue with these facilities violating several provisions of the Clean Water Act and the Resource Conservation Recovery Act. So it's not that there's going to be future damages, it's that there's already ongoing violations of these two environmental laws, and of the kinds of adaptation and mitigation to the known impacts that we'll see from climate change, that they're just going to continue and, in fact, probably get worse.
Okay, so is this lawsuit meant to force new environmental policy then? Are state regulators, do you think, doing enough?
In terms of the complaint that the Conservation Law Foundation is putting forth, it's not that they're asking for new environmental policy or law. They're basically just asking that existing environmental law and policy be upheld at the service level. The more interesting part about this is that what the CLF is asking for is to think of climate change as a potential element that could really ask us to think differently of what it means to take care of or manage risk imposed on these kinds of facilities. And in terms of the second part of your question, part of the way environmental policy is done in this country, even though the EPA at the federal level sets standards, it's up to the states. They're responsible for enforcing and monitoring these things. So according to the CLF's complaint, they believe that Connecticut and the other states that the facilities operate in could do much better in enforcing the existing environmental laws.
Interesting.
All right, Chris Torres of Conn College, thank you so much. We appreciate your time today.
Of course, very welcome.